welcome everybody. My name's Maralee Burnett. I am your astrologer, back with the messages for the week of February 2nd. So this is officially eclipse season. We have just finished the dramatic, possibly full moon in the sign of Leo. And it's that energy that will carry us to a new moon solar eclipse that will happen on the 17th of February in the sign of Aquarius. So we, the people, groups coming together to make a difference, well, that difference could get a little explosive. But for now, let's get started on the weeks leading up to that eclipse, following this full moon in the sign of Leo. And if you haven't, you want to go back and watch that breakdown by sign for you so that you can understand the energy that you're working with. Now, full moons, of course, are about completion, and we need to complete something that's in the way of us going after our dreams, what we love, what we're passionate about, which is working in harmony, of course, with that transition of Neptune into the sign of Aries. Lots of change ahead of us. February is a really pivotal month where the momentum shows up, and then we have to get in the flow and move with it. If all of this sounds a bit out there, maybe you haven't been watching me, and so it would be a great time to click on that subscribe button now. That way you are notified every time I post new content, which is typically every weekend, more often if we have a special event. And then, of course, go out to my website, MaraleeBurnett.com, become a member there, and then that way you get access to all the written content that supports these videos, because some people like to read and follow along versus just listening to my voice, although I don't know why you wouldn't. And you can even book hypnosis sessions with me, speaking of my voice, to help you get in alignment, to help you release anything that's getting in the way of you pursuing your dreams. That is going to be our goal as we transition into this energy of Aries. With Neptune, and soon to follow will be Saturn. So it is no longer a time where you're putting your needs aside. That's what we worked on through all of that Pisces work. Now we're done with that, done with the people pleasing, and have healthy boundaries. We're willing and ready to fight for ourselves and move ourselves forward. So how will we move ourselves forward? That's what this week is all about. And if you, again, did the work with the full moon, well, then you're ready to start creating your new identity, your new future. And as we get started here on Monday, February 2nd, here in the Astro Gold software, we are taking a look at still a tremendous amount of Aquarius energy, as we've had all of the personal planets traveling together, first in Capricorn, now in Aquarius, and soon to enter into the sign of Pisces. But as we're in this area of friend groups, it is a great time for coming together with friends, especially those that share the same values as you do, those who maybe be willing to stand up against authority figures that are mistreating your friends or your groups of friends. We continue to see this kind of battle, like unfortunately we have been seeing in Minnesota, through the next several weeks leading up to, like I said, a pretty tumultuous solar eclipse in the sign of Aquarius and groups of people. And remember, eclipses bring momentary darkness, and then the light returns. And it is in that time where something can be eclipsed out so that something new and better and faded for you can come in. And so as we have all of the personal planets moving through the sign of Aquarius, they're doing the prep work for you, with you. And so wherever you're being guided, whatever new, unusual activity is taking place in your life, pay close attention to it, because there is something about that person, that job, that information, that class you're taking. Something there is a part of the eclipse work that's coming up for you. So just become curious, become aware, don't fret, and see what is going to be presented to you that you want to show up and accept so that you can move forward. Now, today we see Chiron, speaking of Aries, in the sign of Aries, that's been trying to encourage us to work on ourselves, to heal anything that's getting in the way of us feeling confident and strong, getting in the way of us stepping up as a role model, as a teacher, as a leader. Well, today your voice may be stronger because of the fact that Mercury in Aquarius is speaking in harmony with Chiron, and they're both, for a part of the day, also speaking with the moon in Leo. So there again is still the challenges and the conflicts, but there may be a leader who steps away from a current regime and stands out on their own and is willing to work with the people. So there is the potential for that as an opportunity, and there's a potential for you as well. Digging into the conflict doesn't solve the conflict, right? It just makes it grow. Figuring out a way to solve the conflict, finding a way to meet in the middle where we can, where we have opportunity, that's what we need to do. And that's why peaceful demonstrations are so critically important at this time, because you don't want to give ammunition, no matter the conflict in your life, to the other side. That just ensures that the conflict lives on. And a moon in Leo type of leader, because Leo's the lion, is somebody who knows how to trigger you emotionally. So don't fall for the game. Don't fall for being set up. Whatever's going on Monday, trust yourself. Trust the friend groups that align with you and your beliefs, and step fully into your role as a leader, as a confident leader, not a bully. Like, there's always somebody who abuses the Aries energy because, Mars rules Aries, it's warrior. But you can fight for what's right versus just fighting. And that's the difference between the light and the dark energy here in the sign of Aries. And that's what Neptune is coming in here to show us. It's not about deluding yourself any longer. We had enough of that in the Pisces energy over the past 14 years. Now it's time to get clear on your dreams, on your desires, on who you are and what matters to you on your spiritual journey or path, your creative journey or path. There is a lot that we are going to start discovering now that Neptune is staying here. Last year it was a temporary view of what's possible. Now this energy becomes more grounded, becomes more serious, becomes more structured as soon as Saturn joins with Neptune here in a couple of weeks. But again, as soon as a planet hits 0 degrees, especially an outer planet, it's more about the emotional reset that's occurring within you that you want to tune into and pay attention to, that will eventually change what's going on in your outer world. So we're just getting a glimpse of what's possible as we kick off the week ahead. Now, as we head into Tuesday, we are continuing to focus in on the movement of Mercury here, but we're also seeing this energy of Mars, another planet that has to do with movement and action and force. And this is why large groups will continue to be mobilized. And there may be some large groups being mobilized in the air unfortunately, in Iran. And this is a conflict from the past that's resurfacing and is going to be intense. So safety counts, right? When energies don't connect in a good way, things can escalate out of control pretty quickly. And when we're talking about Mars and war and fighting with groups of people in Iran, planetary ruler Pluto and Aquarius, Washington, D.C. is very strongly aligned with Aquarius energy. There are the potentials for some pretty major conflicts, and we need to consider the choices we've made in the past. And the moon's going to be here with the South Node in Virgo, tuning us into this need for emotional control over other people. So again, this can be a lot of warmongering, threatening, retaliation. So things are, unfortunately, going to continue to be pretty dramatic. And we already see that we have warships and we have words, right? Mercury, communication, over the internet, threats, social media threats. Like, we've never seen war and conflict like we are seeing in present day, right? Where you can use social media to create the illusion of situations, to escalate situations very quickly as well. And as Mars continues to go through the sign of Aquarius, along with Mercury, information, the internet, electricity, all of those things are being amplified, and things are moving very quickly and swiftly, especially when you combine your energies together, which is what Aquarius does. So there's something odd, unusual, emotionally upsetting that could be showing up for us as of Tuesday. And because Mars is involved and Mars can cause accidents, this is just a day to be very careful and cautious, especially if you are out amongst groups of people. So again, peaceful protests. Do not escalate and do not join in on those who are trying to escalate things in an unhealthy way. Just be very careful, because remember, we're in that Leo full moon energy. Leo is very dramatic. It's exciting. It's passionate. It's fire, and fire catches, and then fire spreads fast. So if you don't want to get burned, just be careful and cautious as we transition through the energy on Tuesday. As we get to Wednesday, well, we have a bit of good news, because we are going to see Uranus is going to be moving direct. Now, Uranus energy is very volatile. Uranus is the ruler, modern day ruler of Aquarius. And as the planet has been slowing down, as Uranus has, to change direction, which really means turning the corner around the sun's orbit, it puts out more erratic, unstable energy. So, did the government shut down? It wouldn't be a surprise. Or did it briefly, and now we have an agreement? Financial situations can be a little unsettling, as this planet in the sign that rules money, rules the stock market, Taurus, is being activated by this kind of crazy, erratic energy. Now, it may be that it's more impactful to Bitcoin and all of those alternative money forms, because innovation, like crypto, is what you would think of when it comes to Uranus being in the sign of Taurus. But we're about to move away from that topic and see, when Uranus moves into the sign of Gemini, how we trade in information and social media and how that is going to become more of a bargaining chip in some way. It's also an escalation of words, of war, of conflicts. But remember, Uranus asks that we come up with innovative solutions wherever it's going. And as it will move later this year in April into the sign of Gemini, we're going to start to see the topics of information and learning and transportation change. But between now and then, we are going to see the last bits of work as it relates to Uranus being in the sign of Taurus. So it takes 5 to 7 years. So you Tauruses out there that maybe have been feeling a little crazy, or maybe you've been feeling stuck, which you do not like because you're the Taurus bull. You want to be in control and everything going the way you want it to go. You little stubborn souls, you. And when your energy isn't accessible to you, that can be extremely frustrating. But now, as this changes direction, you may suddenly feel like, whoa, there's a shot of adrenaline. There's a shot of awareness, awakening, as this energy starts to move ahead. And it will be slow at first, but once it is really moving forward, wherever we have this in our charts, it's time to finish up this work. So just like we had to finish up and still are finishing up that Pisces work that we have with Saturn, well, we're going to have to do the same here with Uranus and Taurus. Money, beauty, love, value, the valuables that we think we need to have. Any attachments that are really not healthy to us in those areas, we got to break free from them, because that's what Uranus wants and represents, is freedom. Freedom to be ourselves. Freedom to not look alike, to not think alike. This is about being our unique self. So we have to finish that work. And here, still helping, is Saturn, that speaks in a sextile, which is 60 degrees away from Uranus, but it's now entered its 29 degrees of Pisces. This is a final ending of some sort. This is a test. This is a test of your boundaries, of your personal boundaries, a test over control of your mental health and mental well-being. Whatever this is, you've been working on this or being challenged by this for the past 3 years. And now, these are the last 10 days, and they can feel like a trial or a test in some way as you navigate this last critical degree with Saturn. And so those of us born in the mid-60s have been having our Saturn return. And the energy at that time felt a lot like it does now. Very volatile. In wars we don't want to necessarily be a part of. Marching, protesting. So we have a choice. Are we going to just rinse and repeat? Or are we going to do something different? Are we going to be more structured and disciplined in our approach? This is also where we have been seeing the restriction that has been occurring in the ocean, and that's been a part of the Saturn work as well. So there may be, like I said, movement. Saturn, ruler of Capricorn, ruler of governments, is not playing around. If there are threats being placed out there, they're real. So again, traveling in the water, just be careful, be responsible. That's what Saturn wants. Saturn wants you to be responsible with your feelings, with your emotions, with your health, with your healing journey. So again, whatever's been showing up for you over the last 3 years, whatever you've been working on, those of you who have in your second Saturn return, or those of you who have in your first, you're in your 30s, it's time to get serious and finish and commit to finishing the work. And you have 10 days to pass your bar exam, and then this will move on to Aries, where a new test begins. But we'll talk about that as we get towards that video later. But just know, the energy is intense because it's eclipse season. We have to be tested. We have to be challenged. We also have to show up and follow where we're being guided. When fate opens a door, no matter how weird, strange, or bizarre it is, we have to step through it. Show up and step through it. So something today in your life where you have this Uranus 27-degree energy could be shocking, surprising, and suddenly taking you in a new direction. Trust your intuition. The moon will speak in harmony with Uranus on Wednesday, helping guide you towards your next steps. So there we go. That is a big day on Wednesday. As we head here into Thursday, this is when we start to see voices get louder. And that's because we have now Mercury in the sign, of course, of Aquarius, still squaring off with Uranus. And that can bring conflicts that involve money, of course, conflicts that involve groups of societies. There is somebody that's trying to control the purse strings, and the people are not having it. So this conflict is brief. Mercury moves quickly, but following in Mercury's footsteps will be Venus. Now, if you watched me last week, I have said that I think as Venus and Mercury come together, women and young youth groups are going to be the voices that we hear the loudest, that protest the loudest, maybe because they have the most to lose at this time against this person. So remember, Uranus is the ruler of the skies. Sometimes when there's conflicts like this as well, we may see travel restrictions. There can be potentials for, again, accidents, shocking, surprising accidents, or not so shocking and surprising attacks. So it's just very volatile energy for you yourself. You want to use this to break free from a particular mindset, like having a lack mindset when it comes to money. Use this energy to your advantage to break free from that way of thinking. We also see today the sun in Aquarius is making an odd connection back to Jupiter. Now, Jupiter's been retrograde since November of last year. It will continue its retrograde journey until about the middle of March, in fact, March 11th. And here's a checkpoint that you have from the sun shining a light on the work you've been doing and exploring as long as Jupiter's been transiting through the sign of Cancer, which it does for an entire year. Part of it moving forward, a big chunk of it moving back and reflecting. And of course, Jupiter in Cancer is about home and family. It's about immigration. And there is this need for caring and nurturing for one another. And we got to figure out how to do that better and how to change things up. And in your own life, whatever house this is that's being explored. So for example, this is a Jupiter in the 4th house of home and family. It's a very strong foundation that this person has, but maybe they're at odds with their father, son, or a father figure or a mentor, and it's shaking up their belief in themselves. And so something happens today that awakens this person so that they can see this authority figure for what they are and decide to take their power back and not let them keep ruling over them anymore. So we got big energy. Now the good news is Jupiter is a benefic planet. It's a gentle giant. It's a gentle teacher. And there is something that, of course, we are meant to learn. And it doesn't have to be a harsh lesson like, Saturn likes to give us so that we make sure we get it. Well, Jupiter doesn't work that way, but Jupiter does point out how ridiculous you're being if you are ignoring all the signs and continuing to do the things that are harmful for you anyway. So there's a bit of an awakening that we need to go through here on Thursday, and just be careful, be cautious. We're still just in this very volatile energy. As we head to Friday, well, we'll see yet another planet at that 29-degree mark. That will be Mercury. So here's a final test. This could be a big, loud union of voices that are speaking up and standing up today before Mercury will then transition over into Pisces, which will soften the energy and soften how we think. It can also make us a little foggy thinking. So it just depends on how you deal with Pisces energy and if you're comfortable with the watery depths or you have fear associated with them. But that's for later. Right now we're finishing up the time that has to do with being connected and the internet and the voices that we use in unison with one another. And so there can be a test, as I've mentioned, when you see a planet at that critical 29 degrees that asks you a pointed question wherever you have this. Do you want to belong with this group, or does your voice need to go its own way? Of course, the answer to that depends on what else is going on in your own chart today. But I would imagine that there's some kind of protest going on today. It could be a very emotional one and charged one at that. And the internet can also be a little wonky because somebody's trying to suppress the voices. So again, it's a very energetic week. So if you're wanting to align with it, then like I said, you're asking yourself the question, does this group still speak for me? Or do I still speak for them? Or am I ready to make a shift and a change? And then we get here into Saturday. And as I mentioned, of course, we have Mercury now moving swiftly through the sign of Pisces. So if you are somebody who, when Mercury goes into the sign of Pisces, gets very foggy with their thinking, well, I have some not so good news for you, because this is where Mercury will have its first retrograde of the year, and all year long, Mercury will be in the water signs. So this is a good time for you to tune in and check in with how you're thinking, how you're speaking is affected. Do you get overly emotional? And if this watery energy overwhelms you or drowns you in some way, makes it hard for you to deal with your emotions, the answer is to have a creative outlet of some kind where you can express the feelings that are swirling around inside of you, and they need an exit point of some kind. So, do you like to draw? Do you like to doodle? Do you like to sing? Do you like to paint? Do you like to act? What is it that you can use as a creative outlet? And knowing that we will have Mercury go retrograde in this sign, this might be the time for you to start in looking into something that you did in the past and get back to it. And as Mercury moves through the sign, it's going to spend quite a bit of time with the North Node in Pisces. So if you've been one of those people that's like, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? How do I get better at my gifts? This next 9-week period, you're going to be able to discover that opportunity that helps you connect emotionally and spiritually with your gifts and follow the light that's guiding you. Okay, that was totally just by accident. I didn't mean to talk about guiding light, but hey, that's why I'm here. So, just the beginnings of that story are showing up today as Mercury dips its toe into the sign of Pisces. But just know, this is a new opportunity because of the fact that as Saturn gets ready to leave and these personal planets come in, well, Saturn gave you the roadmap, gave you the plan, helped you build the structure to go, again, after your dreams, because we're still talking Neptune energy here. But now with the personal planets, what you've been doing internally, they help you create it in your reality. And that's what we are going to be experiencing through February, through March, as the personal planets come through here and highlight the work that you've just completed over the last 3 years. And are you going to waste it, or are you going to do something with it? That's the question. And it just starts rumbling around in your head today. And then as we move ahead to Sunday to wrap out this tumultuous week, well, now we have Venus, ruler of the sign of Taurus, in a bit of a confrontation with Uranus as it sits there. And so this is, conflicting values. Venus is showing how much we love to be a part of something bigger than ourselves, which is very outside of Venus's scope of energy. And those conflicting values that we have, there's something about them that really stands out today. Now, could also be a woman that is in a leadership role within a foreign country that is in a conflict with a money man here in the U.S., potentially, which we're already starting to see rumblings of what's going on in Venezuela and the conflicts that are happening and how nothing's really changed. So that those voices may rise within that country. And again, we are in a time of change, and change requires facing conflict. And so even the moon in the sign of Scorpio, where it does not love being, because it has to feel all the dark energy that's not enjoyable, is in a square with Mars. So there's more emotional conflicts that are going on Sunday that makes this, again, as I mentioned, very intense energy to wrap up the week as we get ready for the intensity to increase next week as well. So whenever you have square energy and wherever you have it, do something different. So align with the energy and make a change somewhere in your life so it doesn't work on you, it starts working with you. That's your role. You have to show up and meet the energy and do something with it. And squares mean change. Trines mean cooperation. So what do you want to change? Are you being less responsible than you should about the things you own? Are you careless? Do you let things get broken? Do you let them get stolen? What is the thing? Do you not have a good relationship with money? Well, then you would use this energy on Sunday to change that in some way. Maybe your space is a mess and the things that you spent big money on, you're not taking care of. So let's say it's your car. Your car's a disaster zone. Well, you didn't spend all that money to have a flashy car and then not take care of it. So you join with a group of friends and you get a big cleaning day going on as far as your car goes. Whatever the thing is, of course, I'm just making a little fun out of this. Do something differently than you've done in the past. And that way the energy doesn't have to feel abrasive. It can feel motivating. And these are the things that I work on with you guys when I do readings. I don't just try to predict your future. I try to teach you who you are, what energy you have available to work with in your chart, where you see challenges in your life, and how to work through them instead of playing the role of the victim. And so, as Mercury moves through the sign of Pisces, we're going to be awakened to the victim mentality, how it holds us back, and what we have to shift and change as a result. So pay attention over these next several weeks, what's coming to mind for you about your gifts, about playing the victim. What is it that surfaces? And then you're going to have to do the work once the retrograde starts. All right. So, as we wrap up this week and we head into next week, this is when we get the next level of shifts that occur. So we will see that Venus will move into the sign of Pisces, and we will see Saturn leave and head into the sign of Aries. And so that's the shift that, you're hearing all of the astrologers talk about. But what they're talking about most is when these two actually come together at the exact same degree and minute. And that will come the week after, right after the eclipse. And then we have this world reset moment. This eclipse is meant to shake things up and create a new world order, literally. This is not one that we're going to sleep through. And so we will come back next week to talk about that. But this is your call to action. You can't stay doing the exact same thing you've been doing. Too much is shifting and changing now. And this energy that's coming up, this eclipse that's coming up on the 17th, is just a preview of the major work ahead to actually bring the change in. And that change will kick off this summer when the nodes shift into Aquarius and Leo. So this full moon that we just had and this eclipse, this new moon solar eclipse that we're about to have, both are showing you the fated work that you will end up doing for an extended period of time, because the nodal shifts that happen in Aquarius and Leo run not from July to January like they normally do, that about 19-month cycle, but all the way till the following March of 2028. So, when societal shifts happen, they do not happen overnight. They do require groups to join and drive the change. And that's why we're going to have such a long time with the North Node in the sign of Aquarius, is because these new groups that are formed that are going to drive the change will need time to do it, sustain it, and then maintain it. So wherever you have Aquarius in your chart, whatever's been going on now, it's a warm-up of what is to come. And when it's fated work we have to do, it's going to stretch us beyond our comfort zone. So let me know in the comments what's happening in your lives that seems unexpected, extraordinary, out of the blue situations are going to turn into something completely unplanned, but it could change everything in your life as a result. So if you want to know more, of course, you can book a session with me. If you want little tidbits every day, make sure that you take a look at, always get what side, my daily tarot cards, because I do pull one every single day, and sprinkle in a little message of what's going on astrologically that could align with the card that day as well, because they are conjoined. It's just energy. They are both reading energy. The cards and astrology read the same energy, and that's why their messages often repeat. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for liking, commenting, sharing my work. Thank you for joining me on my website and signing up for my newsletters so that I can send the written articles out for you. And speaking of written articles, I already have all of course, the February content out there, but also March, because we have the full moon lunar eclipse where we see some closure to all this craziness happening in the early part of March. I have all of that ready for you to get out there and read and prepare for as well. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. Keep me posted. Thank you for those that continue to work with me this year. I love being a part of your journey, and I hope I can join one of yours soon. Take care, everybody.